Hello, how are you? Welcome back to my channel. Today, I kind of just wanted to share a few things that have been on my heart and on my mind lately that might help you out, might not help you out. It might just be a way of me kind of thinking out loud in front of you. But we're coming to the end of the year, right? And we're basically halfway through our school year, but also almost done with the calendar year. And as I'm looking at the books that I didn't get to and some of the things that I didn't learn this year or skills that I did not learn that I wanted to, I kind of have been having this sense of anxiety or the sense of feeling like I haven't accomplished what I wanted to accomplish, which is crazy because if you actually look at the things that I have accomplished and the things that I have improved upon, it's been a lot. It's just these things in my mind that I dreamed of accomplishing by the end of this year. So I read this book earlier this year, which was called The Story of Charlotte Mason. And I've been revisiting it now because I was trying to narrow down some things that I should focus on for my own self-education. I'm like, I just have too many things that I feel like I should be learning or reading right now. I really need to narrow it down to like, what's the most important thing for me to focus on at this point? And so I was like, oh, wait, in this book, I wonder if I should go back and look at the things that the school that Charlotte Mason set up for teachers, what did they teach the teachers? Okay, because the books were always changing. And so they didn't expect the teachers to have read all of these books already all the time. I mean, you read ahead of the kids, okay, but they didn't expect you to just already know everything that could come up in the curriculum. But what did they actually train the teachers to do at the House of Education in Ambleside? And I thought that might be interesting for me to look at to kind of focus my thoughts on things that I should be working on. And so I'll share it with you. And I came up with some ideas of things that I can do that will help me, and then maybe they'll help you. But I also just come across all these other gems, things that I highlighted that I had forgotten about, and it has been so refreshing, and it has brought such a good sense of clarity to my planning for the next year and just to my soul, honestly, if I'm going to be honest with you. I don't want to have a sense of feeling like I'm always behind because it really just steals the joy of the things that I am learning and the things that I am doing with my kids in the moment. And so I'm just going to share a few of these things with you that I think that you might enjoy. The author of this book, her name was Essex Cholmondeley, which I looked up how to pronounce this last name. It's pronounced Chumley. Okay, so she was actually a student of Charlotte Mason's at the House of Education in Ambleside. So Ambleside is in the Lake District of England. I'm here in England as well. I'm a lot further south, but I would love to get up there sometime and actually see where all of this took place because it sounds absolutely gorgeous. And I often find myself wishing that I could go back in time and be one of the students, be a fly on the wall in these classrooms because it sounds incredible. But anyway, so she wrote a book about her experience there at the House of Education and just her experience of Charlotte Mason in general to give us these almost delicious details of the things that they were studying and of Charlotte Mason's personality. Because of the details that she gives, I really feel like she gives such a beautiful example of a Christian woman, of what I should be aspiring to be. And what I think is interesting, especially for this day and age, of course, you know, when you read Charlotte Mason, you're like, wow, this was written more than 100 years ago, and yet it applies so deeply to my life and to our culture. So the first thing that I will share is this has nothing to do with like daily routines or anything like that, but it might help me manage my time better on things that I should focus my attention on. So this comes from the book from page 56. Miss Mason rarely touched upon controversial subjects. She read very little controversial matter. She steadily refused to enter the list in condemnation of theories with which she had no sympathy. So even if she disagreed with a particular theory, she just didn't even talk about it. She prayed, "Lead us not into temptation, in thought as in other things." And she would not enter in and let her thoughts dwell in the many byways of modern thought when so much work was needed on the highways. That was amazing. This really hit home to me when I saw this again the other day. She said of Miss Mason, she never let herself be anxious. She avoided expressions of personal opinion, lest they should act like suggestion on those who loved her. She distrusted personal influence as limiting and belittling the person influenced, and she steadily set her face against any form of personal influence over any with whom she came in contact. She laid down principles and waited for others to think along her lines of thought and find the right solution. And doesn't this just fly in the face of like influencer culture today? It's like Charlotte Mason, somebody who had every reason to try to influence people. All that she would do is to just talk about these principles that she learned and talk about them enough and in such a way that eventually people would agree and take them on for their own as well. But she wasn't trying to like influence anybody. She also said, Charlotte Mason constantly said, always remember that persons matter more than things. Don't say anything that will leave a sting. Again, like I go to this book to try to find in my superficial way, I'm like, what are the books that I should be reading or the things that I should be studying? And what's slapping me in the face are habits that I should be focusing on focusing my attention on things that matter and to be working on how I speak and how I treat people. And I mean, if I started to just really reflect on making sure that whenever I talk to anybody about anything, to not leave a sting when I do it. And which is just so crazy to me because oftentimes I'll be like, wow, that was really a good zinger that I had there. I really won that. No, that's not what I should be doing. And I'm just super grateful that I was reminded about that as something that I can work on this year. So far, this has nothing to do with my original purpose for going to this book on finding books that I should be reading or skills that I should be working on that are the most important. But let me get to that point now, okay? Again, the book was written by somebody who was actually in Charlotte Mason's home where she was educating people on how to become good teachers, okay? But what the author was struck with was the atmosphere of the home, which is, of course, something important to Charlotte Mason, the atmosphere of education. The whole atmosphere of the house was so extraordinarily good. Nothing ignoble seemed natural within its door. And moreover, the actual surroundings, the books, the pictures, which were reproductions of old masters, the simple furniture, and the wildflowers for decoration, everywhere were a revelation in themselves in these days when the world either lived in a crowd of ancestral treasures or in the unutterable hideousness of the Victorian age when prosperity had to be apparent. It's something simple that I want to try to work on this upcoming year is just the atmosphere of my house. Isn't that a wonderful thing to think about? Like I want my house to be described like how she described Charlotte Mason's house. The whole atmosphere of the house was so extraordinarily good. Nothing ignoble seemed natural within its door. So anyway, I'm just going to be thinking about that this year. So now into the specifics. I was going over some of the notes that I took on the things that the author, Essex Cholmondeley, things that they did as a part of their education to become good teachers. First of all, she said that on my arrival at Ambleside, I was interviewed by Miss Mason, who asked me for what purpose I had come. I replied, I have come to learn to teach. Then Miss Mason said, my dear, you have come here to learn to live. She said, I have never forgotten those precious words, which have helped me with my children. That's how she started her narration of her experience at Ambleside and the things that they were learning. Let's see. She said that, first of all, when they were at Ambleside, many neighbors would come over and spend an evening once a week to share what they called literary evenings. So in my estimation, it kind of sounds almost like a book club where they got together and just talked about things that they were learning about and things that they were reading. So that's something that I've actually never done, which is to join a book club, which I'm thinking might be something interesting that I should do this next year. Let's see. She said that every student of the college kept a nature notebook. I have kind of casually been doing that along with my kids, but I haven't really taken it as something that is important for me, for my own education, to actually keep a nature notebook and to take it a little bit more seriously. So I think I'm going to work on that as well. They had people come and visit the college to work on teaching the students their certain skills. And some of those skills that they brought people in to work on were things like drawing, painting, wood carving, as well as foreign languages. They also said that on their walks, so let me get into what I kind of wrote down as the schedule of the school. According to the author, the schedule of the school was very rigid. Every day they would have breakfast at 8 o'clock. From 9 until 1, they would have work and lectures where they were basically studying the methods of Charlotte Mason. They would read her books aloud and talk about them. They would, from 2:30 to 4 every day, they would go on a walk followed by tea. But some of their walks were specifically nature walks. She said that a lot of their walks were French walks where they were learning French while they were walking, which I have heard before is a fantastic way to learn a foreign language. This is why, side note, I love Pimsleur so much because I do it while I'm walking because it's all audio. And so you're repeating things and thinking about things as you're walking. And for some reason, the physical movement along with the learning of a language is just super helpful. So anyway, that was kind of verified as something that I should continue to do and to make an important part of my day because they would do it. They would spend their Sundays just in complete rest from their ordinary activities. However, they would go to church every Sunday and it was compulsory. Then for an hour in the afternoon, Charlotte Mason would read her meditations to the students, which meant to help them with their spiritual lives. And she showed the students how to read the Gospels and dwell on the Lord's words and works. And then there would often be a theme or aspect of truth that made clear on Sundays that would be a source of support for the coming week. What a wonderful way to spend a Sunday, right? She said at Scale How, time was to be respected, given to the thing or person claiming it rightfully. This sense of time value was hard to achieve, but it bore the test of experience during the 2 years as training. What an effort of faith it all was. It did not seem possible to find a moment for everything, yet if no time was wasted, there was plenty of it and no hurry. And so this habit of respecting time and not wasting it also joined nicely with forming the habit of attention. At the end of this year, when I'm thinking about, I feel like I didn't get to things that I did think were possible to get to at the beginning of the year. I don't set just completely unrealistic expectations for myself, but there's all these things that I didn't get to this year. But if I'm being honest with myself, did I waste a lot of time this year? Yes, I did. I focused on things that probably were not important. I really do just feel like maybe God at this point is telling me to work on some things like my home atmosphere, like on how I speak. Be more concerned about that and less concerned with, did I get to these 30 books this year? And if I didn't get to those, that's not necessarily the failure. The failure in my life might be, how is my home atmosphere? If it was lacking, then that's actually more important than the books that I didn't get to. So I hope that that's helpful. I do also want to share in this book, she said that Charlotte Mason was wonderful with keeping in touch with former students because they would often, she was their mentor. And so she would often get letters from students asking for help or encouragement or advice, something like that. And so she shared a letter from Charlotte Mason that was to a former student who was feeling what could only be described as like a burnout. I mean, I was certainly shaking my head and nodding like, yep, I've been there, sister. What? Yeah, exactly. What did Charlotte Mason tell you on how to deal with that? Because we've all felt it. She was just kind of feeling this sense of, I'm drained. I don't know what else I can do. How can I get this spark of like loving education again? And so I'll just share what Charlotte Mason shared with her that was a big sense of encouragement to me when I first read it. So she said, you will find that if we read thoughtfully and steadily, and only that which is worth reading, daily nourishment of stimulating thought will come to us. And however foreign the subject may be, what we read, if it is worth reading, will help us to do our work better and will give us fresh thoughts to impart to the children. Never be without a really good book on hand. If you find yourself sinking to a dull, commonplace level with nothing particular to say, the reason is probably that you are not reading and therefore not thinking. And then finally she ends with, I will offer just one other little word of counsel: study. I know that all good teachers have some study each day in preparing for the next day's work, But besides this, study 2 or 3 subjects on your own account. And do not think this a selfish thing to do, because the advantage does not end with yourself. Every hour of definite study enriches your mind and increases your power, so that the more you study in your spare time, the more there is in you to bestow upon your pupils. What I think was really interesting about that is she said to study 2 or 3 subjects on your own account. Which subjects were those, Charlotte? Well, she doesn't say. A few things that you just find personally interesting. And don't think of this as a selfish thing. And that really hit me, because I have all these books and things that I want to read, but they don't necessarily fit into like my kids' curriculum. And so I'm thinking like, well, that's not worth my time at this very moment. But if you think about it, like according to Charlotte Mason, it's just the very act of doing something that does stimulate your mind, just because you find it personally interesting, will help you educate your kids. It will bring forth the science of relations of different things that maybe are going to be completely unique to you and your homeschool. So I just loved that encouragement. I'm like, you know what? I'm going to add to my reading list books outside the course of study of classical education, let's just say. I've been so concerned with trying to get caught up on all the classical education stuff that I haven't read. I haven't read all of Plutarch. I haven't finished these classic novels. No, I'm going to actually add in a few things that just I find interesting, that I find personally fulfilling to study, and also just model the love of learning something. That's what is most important for me to give to my kids, is not to make sure that, I just hit everything and there's no gaps in their education. I want to give them a love for learning that when they find the need to fill in the gaps of their education someday, which they will, that they are excited to do it, that they know how to do it. And yeah. So anyway, I hope that helps. I mean, feel free to comment below on if you kind of struggle with this at the end of the year, if you're kind of looking for something to grab onto for next year, on things to work on and focus on. Let me know what that is for you down below. I love to hear it, because I think that we're just probably a little hard on ourselves here. It's great to be so ambitious in the things that you want to learn and do, but let's not dampen our joy at this time of year with the things that we did not actually get to. It's a great time to just kind of regroup and to focus on the upcoming year, and to pray about it, and to just ask for God's help in this upcoming year with your homeschool. So I hope you do that. I hope you're having a wonderful Christmas season, and I will see you in the next video. Bye.